3 years and 3 months. That is the minimum amount of time you have to wait before riding a non-learner approved motorcycle here in Victoria. Legally, of course. I've met many people who don't let that stop them. Yo, what is up guys? Today we're going to be talking about Victoria's motorcycle restrictions and whether they're reasonable or not. This is an early start for Gutter Rash. We're on a bit of a side quest today. We're heading to a high school to go have a chat about career pathways and that kind of stuff. It's nice to do this. I do this like once a year, but I could do without the ridiculously early start. Let's talk about Victoria. How does the licensing system work? You get your learner's permit, you have to spend a minimum of 3 months on that before you can then go for your full license. Once you get your full license, regardless of how old you are or what kind of car license you hold, you will be restricted for 3 years before you lose those restrictions. Now, a decent way to test if something is reasonable or not is to compare it to other similar scenarios. For that reason, I had a bit of a dig around to try and find out what the minimum amount of time you have to spend on a learner-approved motorcycle is for each state. And to be honest, I got so many different answers from so many different sources to the point where I kind of just gave up. So, if you have been through the licensing system in your own state, please drop it in the comments below. I want to know what the minimum amount of time it is that you have to spend on a learner-approved motorcycle before you can legally hop onto a non-LAMS bike, and that includes your learner's permit. Oh, what's happened here, mate? I'm seeing a lot of red and blue. We do have cops reported. I don't think there's any lane closures as of yet. Man, how cool is this? I just have a rear view mirror, like a proper one. When combined with the side mirrors, it's almost like I don't have a blind spot. It's pretty good. So we've got to slow down to 40 kilometers an hour when there are lights activated. It's not just limited to emergency vehicles anymore, so it's even if you see amber lights from like a tow truck or something, you still have to slow right down to 40. What's happened here? Divert! Oh, it's a booze bus. Damn, I think they're packing. Oh no, they're setting up. Shit. It's for the folks who are up to naughty business on a Tuesday morning. I'm starting to see streaks of pink in the clouds. So pretty. And outbound lanes are completely clear, inbound lanes completely blocked. Thank goodness I'm heading outbound. Oh, what a corner, mate. What a corner. Great way to kick off the day. Just fucking gradually applying some throttle, applying a bit of lead, and sending it. Fuck, that's fun. That'll never not be fun. Even on my tiny little Ninja 400. Oh, mate. How good. How good. I love this thing. There is a spectrum which every rider falls on, denoting how quickly a rider upskills, gains experience, and hones their roadcraft on a motorbike. On one end of the spectrum, you've got the people who get their full motorcycle license and then just either sell their bike or park it in the garage for the next few years without ever really giving it much thought again. Not necessarily because they are so intent on avoiding learner-approved motorcycles that they refuse to ride, but maybe because they're not interested, maybe because their life circumstances change. But then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got the guys who, the moment they get their L plates, they start putting hundreds, if not thousands of kilometers on their bike per week, and they continually do so for the next 3 years and 3 months. And the crazy thing is, at the end of the restriction period, these two ends of the spectrum are seen as the same. At the end of the 3 years, they're both afforded their fully unrestricted motorcycle license. Now the problem is, I don't think they're the same, and I'm sure you would agree with me. And that is the problem with having a blanket rule time restriction. I think 3 years works for the people who don't really ride their motorcycle that much. If you're not going to upskill that much in 3 years, you know, I don't think adding an extra year, 2 years, 3 years to those restrictions will make much of a difference. So for that reason, I think 3 years is fine for the folks who don't really ride their motorcycle that much and don't really intend on upskilling quickly during their restriction period. But it kind of hurts the guys who are on the other end of the spectrum, the guys who put in the work, the time, the effort, and clearly have a desire to kind of go above and beyond the learner-approved motorcycles. And this is where I think a tailored licensing system would come in a bit better, where it caters for each individual situation. And it sounds tedious, it sounds arduous, yes, and I was thinking the same thing until I realized that's exactly what we do here in Victoria for our learners, our car learners. When I was a young fella, I got given a logbook and I had to collect a certain number of hours before I could go for my P plates, which was the next step in the car license. There was a time limit. I can't remember what it was. I think you can get your learner's license at 16, but you have to be 18 to get your P plates. So there is a time limit, but there is also a set number of hours that you have to achieve outside of that. And a portion of those hours had to be at night, a portion had to be in the wet, and after you had done all of these hours, only then could you go for your P plates. And that was good because it meant the people who wanted their license quicker, the people who felt that they were ready sooner, the people who wanted to upskill quicker, they could do so. And that's kind of what I mean by taking a more tailored approach to each rider. Now, whether I want to fill out a logbook every time I go riding, that's a different story, but it does exist. Let me know what you think should be done, or whether it should just be the 3-year blanket rule for everyone. Whoa, that was so wholesome. Where were we though? I think if there is gonna be a 3-year restriction rule, that's fine. You know, the people who are happy to wait that long, the people who don't really ride that much, who aren't interested in getting off their lambs prior to that, they can continue to wait the 3 years, and that's fine. But I think the option to cater it to each individual should be available to us. So whether that be through an extra set of logbooked hours, or whether it be through a set of extra courses one must undertake to upskill them faster, or maybe an intermediary assessment that if you pass, you can get rid of your E-condition at the 2-year mark or something, instead of having to wait the 3, or just a combination of the aforementioned ideas and maybe a few more that I've failed to think of. So there you have it, guys. I think the 3-year blanket rule is sufficient for the people who have no interest in carrying a pillion or riding a non-learner approved motorcycle. But for the rest of us, I think a few measures need to be implemented so that we can legally, responsibly and safely get rid of our restrictions at the 2-year, potentially even the 1-year mark. I think 1 year is stretching it, but definitely the 2-year. And it's a very reasonable ask because bloody every other state is 2 years or even 1 compared to Victoria's 3. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to like, comment and subscribe if you haven't already. I will catch you on the next one.
You say you got them guns, but I've never seen you bang. You say you got them drugs, but I've never seen you slang.